All right. Amazing. So, Kathy, it's so good for you to have a chat with me here. We're going to be talking about comedy and humor, which are actually two different things. And I didn't realize how big a question that was until I asked the question. So, we're going to be diving into that today. But first of all, Kathy, why don't you tell us a bit about you, what your business is, and why you're passionate about it?
Yeah, absolutely. So the short of it is, in a nutshell, is I started Keeping It Human about 12 years ago, and it combines business and comedy. And so I worked in tech for about 15 years. I was leading large teams, a lot of marketing teams, product teams, story teams.
Hmm.
And then at night I was doing comedy. So I was doing, stand up and sketch and improv and all the things at night. And so after many years, I finally went, this is silly. Let's combine the two. And today my business really focuses on helping people and teams be bolder so that their stories are better, their communications are better, their ideas, the ideas that your teams and your cultures come up with are bolder. And that's where I think, it is humor. It's also, I think, a lot of the lessons of comedy that teach us how to be bolder.
Hmm. Well, I've definitely seen a big move recently. I'm sure you have too. People are a lot more focused on culture these days than they ever were. It seems to be definitely the driving force of businesses over sheer capital and monetary value. So, how has the work that you do, how has that been playing into that shift? And, what are some of the things that you've been seeing in that shift as you've been going about your work?
It's such a big question because I remember when I was in tech, we really just didn't care, sadly.
Hmm.
It was like we treated teams like, cows to be milked. It's like, all right, how do we get more out of you guys? And now I think there's a recognition that, well, people are burned out. We've had the great
Hmm.
resignation. People are leaving. And Gen Z, I think all of us, but especially Gen Z, I'm a Gen Xer. And Gen Z is like, we're not taking this anymore. Gen Z
Hmm.
is like, the systems are broken. And they're right. They're right. And I think that shift, I think, started probably bubbling up before COVID. And I think COVID revealed how broken it actually was to so many people. And we kind of knew, but I think a lot of leaders were in denial. And I think what it did is it revealed, like, oh my God, we are treating people like assets. We're treating them like they're on a balance sheet. We're not treating them like people. And we're like, all right, get back to work.
Hmm. We're gonna time your 15-minute like toilet break, right?
Exactly. He's like, get up your smoke break, Bob, get back to work. And people are like, no, that's not how it
Yep.
works. And I think we're seeing a rebellion, and I'm glad about it because
Hmm.
culture hasn't been human for a long time. And I think what we're finally seeing leaders acknowledge is that if we don't treat people better, we are going to lose them, as they should.
Hmm.
So that's, I think, the really big shift. And certainly, I think, part of what humor and comedy are about is laughter and safety and bravery, which you can't have any of those things, Sam, as you know, if we're in
Yep.
a unsafe, bullshit environment that treats people poorly. You can't have that.
If you fall on the wrong side of a spreadsheet during a recession, you like there's always that risk, right? That's how people have been trained to think, and
Yeah.
people don't feel safe. People don't feel like their leaders are looking after them.
Yeah, they don't. And I think we're finally saying it. And I think what's so
Hmm.
great about younger generations is like, people like me have been saying it. I think Gen Y was like saying it louder, and Gen Z is like, yo, leaders, you suck. And I think every subsequent generation has been more vocal. And I think that's a great thing because I
Hmm.
finally feel like leaders are getting the message and people are leaving. They're like, I'm not doing that here. And I think that is, I, I feel like it's a long time coming. I wish
Hmm.
it would have happened earlier. But yeah, I think there's risk. And I think the biggest message of all is that leaders have had to hear that they've failed. There's no trust, there's low trust, there's low safety, and there's no way in hell people are going to risk anything in a low trust environment to innovate. They're not going to laugh, they're not going to take risks, they're not going to bring humor to work, and all the things that we say we want can't happen unless there's high trust.
Okay. So these are the problems.
Yeah.
So what's missing then? Like, what is the solution that is missing that
Yeah.
you're helping to implement?
There's a couple things. I think one of the things that I've always believed, from not just being in tech and leading teams, but from comedy stages, is that, look, we are, whether or not we call it that, we are improv groups. Every team is an improv group.
Hmm.
Now, you can be a shitty one, or you can be a really high performing, amazing team. But whether or not you call it that, you are. So why not get in front of it and say, look, we are a team. And what do teams do? Well, the teams that are high performing as an improv, we have each other's backs.
Hmm.
There's no wrong, there's no fail. Somebody creates an idea and somebody else catches it and adds on, rather than judging the idea. So what if we actually spent more time operating with intent and purpose like improv groups? What if we made it safe to fail and brought more humor and laughter to innovation? But the only way that works is when we make it safe.
Okay.
And those are, I think, the solution is in thinking very differently about team dynamics, about trust, and about psychological safety, which in really high performing improv groups, you see that.
How is that generated?
How is it generated in terms of how do we do that?
Yeah, how does that environment get created where suddenly,
Yeah.
there is the ability, the permission, the freedom to
Yep.
move forward in this way?
Leaders have to, couple things. Okay, leaders have to step up and model it and say, this is what it is, but prove it, prove it,
Mhm.
prove it. It can't be, hey, everybody, go innovate, go innovate. It'll be okay. No one's going to do it. Everyone's like, you first. So you have
Mhm.
to provide social proof. I think what leaders have to do is they have to start acting like it. They have to say, this is a corporate value. We got your back. Fun is welcome here. It's part of innovation. Safety is welcome here. We don't smart failure, and then define what those failures are. What is smart failure? Most people in teams are never told the parameters with which they can experiment by, because we never talk about it. So have those conversations, show up, do it. Let teams have some autonomy and decide how they're going to innovate. Hold everybody accountable, make it part of how teams are judged or compensated, like build in some systems, talk about it, but also
Mhm.
show up and put in social proof. But again, here's the thing, Sam, leaders have a responsibility, but you and I also have a responsibility. I
Okay.
can't wait for leaders to do the very thing that I should do, which is when I show up to work, let's be part of the change. I'm going to show up and have somebody's back and be the person for other people that somebody should have been for me. And
So I'm
that
hearing
means
something of self-leadership here for
self-leadership.
everyone within the team.
If everyone came and said, you know what, we agree, this is the team we want to build. This is the values we want to live by. We want to make it safe to come up with great ideas and to have fun. This is our team charter. And then showed up. And actually, if somebody had an idea, instead of judging it, how about I say, Sam, that's an interesting idea. Tell me more. Or, hey, Sam, ooh, I'm going to yes and, which is a cornerstone of improv. How do I add on to that? Ooh,
Uh-huh.
let me add on to that idea and move it forward. And if we started acting differently in our teams, I think we actually have change. So it's top down, Sam, but we have responsibility bottoms up in our teams to actually start to shift this idea. Yeah.
I like it. That's given me some ideas already for my own team.
Yeah.
Um,
Good.
so
Good.
so how about some distinguishing factors between humor and comedy? Like, let's drill into that a bit more.
It's probably a very nerdy, like going down the rabbit hole
Okay.
conversation,
I
which means
love it. Let's
no,
go there.
which means I love it. Let's go there. And probably very few people, except for people like me who do stand up and sketch and improv, give a crap about it. But I do. So let's go there. So here's the thing. Humor everybody has. If you can laugh, you have a sense of humor. And I think what stops people, Sam, is that too many people equate humor with being funny.
Hmm.
And humor doesn't necessarily mean being funny. If I can laugh at something that happened that somebody did, I have a sense of humor. And so flexing my humor muscles just means I'm giving myself permission to laugh, to show up imperfect, to own my sense of humor, to even make people laugh, smile. Hopefully I'm funny, but if I make people laugh and smile, even if it wasn't rip-roaringly funny, I've done my job.
Well, even a little massively boosts those brain chemicals. It helps you connect to your team, that boosts creativity, boosts performance, reduces
Yes,
anxiety, all those
yes,
amazing, amazing things.
exactly. We just need a little bit of oxytocin
Hmm.
to get the brain going, and just a little bit is wonderful. And that's, I think, the difference. Now, and I say that because when we start to say, well, look, comedy, we're trying to be funny. When I'm doing stand up, in fact, I'm doing stand up tonight in a show.
Hooray.
My job is to make you laugh. My job is to make the audience laugh. But just having a sense of humor doesn't mean it's my job to necessarily go around being funny all the time to everybody. It just means being open and being lighthearted. But when I'm operating in a mode of comedy, of improv comedy or stand-up comedy, or sketch comedy, I'm trying to make you laugh. And I distinguish it because I think that's a lot of pressure for people. If the bar is, oh my God, I have to be funny, well, then
Yep.
who the hell wants to bring their humor to work? That's a lot of pressure. And it's unnecessary. To your point, Sam, you said it so well. It's like, if we just come and have a little bit of a fun, lighthearted attitude, we've made a difference in our teams.
So follow-up question for you. So
Yeah.
performance, of course, is a big part of this discussion
Yeah.
because people fall on the wrong side of a performance review. That's problematic. And sure, there's a place for that, absolutely.
Yeah.
But that's not the main issue we're talking about here. We're talking about culture boosting
Mhm,
humor and
mhm,
comedy, and that
mhm.
seems to be separate from the performance part. And so what I'm hearing is, tell me if I'm wrong, what I'm hearing is this helps people to get out of that mode, which has been over amplified and over prioritized,
Mhm.
and into that mode where people can relax and be more of a team, be more of a family unit, implement more of a culture. Do I have
That's,
that roughly right?
I think you said it better than I could. Because yeah, no, I think that's really a great way to look at it. It's great framing. I think when we're talking about humor at work, people think, this is me in the microphone, and I say, hey, you know what? Hey, I've been married over 20 years. Yeah. Don't believe in divorce, but murder, hell yes. You know what I mean? Right, but that's me in stand-up mode. But that's not what
Hmm.
we don't want people walking around doing this in meetings, right? Being that
Yeah.
person. And you're so right. Get out of the performance mode and really get into the connecting with other people and showing up and being relaxed. And you're not performing, you're connecting. You're having a human conversation. And I think that is such a big, powerful difference. And honestly, I think you nailed it. So yeah.
Cool. All right, I've got another question, which is really focused around our relationship to technology,
Yeah.
because that's more tightly coupled than it's ever been in human
Mhm.
history. And it's
Mhm.
more powerful than it's ever been. And in some ways, it's connected us more than we've ever been connected before. But it's created some troubling dynamics in relationships as well. Where do you think the dangers of us being so tightly coupled to technology is in regards to building that culture, building that relationship?
Mhm.
And how can we keep it human, even though we're so connected and plugged into tech?
Oh man, that's such a big question. I think you hit it on the head. I think technology is there to facilitate connection, not get in the way. And I think we always have to remember that. Look, tech doesn't mean anything if it's undermining the connection that a team, has. If it's making it harder, then get the technology out of the way. And if we're putting all the priority on how we connect, but not are we connecting in the right ways, then we're kind of missing the point. And I think technology can help us connect. We can still have connection. In fact, even in meetings or trainings or whatever we're doing with our team, the research is really clear that if you want to get everybody on the same page and increase the learning,
Hmm.
get everyone to laugh and tell stories and to connect first and then content. Connection first, then content. That's what the research tells us. And laughter is great for that. But technology, I think we have to make sure that we're using it to facilitate that in the best way possible. And Zoom's better now. We can do things with Zoom and breakout rooms than we could before.
Yep.
But if technology starts to get in the way, then I'm a big believer, rethink technology, because technology never should be the thing that undermines a team or gets in the way of connecting, or if people are spending more time with technology process than they are connecting with their team members, something's got to change. And that's why I think, for all our talk of Web3, and that's all great, I think nothing substitutes like good old fashioned human connection.
Yeah. And in-person connection too. I had a great experience a few weeks ago. I was visiting one of my team members, who's also a very good friend of mine up in Canada. And the borders had been closed for so long, and I hadn't been able to travel across, and I was finally able to travel across, and I did. And I'd not seen him in over a year in person. I mean, we talk every day on Zoom and everything, but even that is so different. Like, we immediately had way more creativity. We were able to look at the problems we were working on from a totally different angle. We were able to high five after a great client call. Like, these are things that we don't have as much these days. So what do you say to keeping it human in the context of, hey, so much is fully remote, or at least partially remote these days? Are we losing something here? And is there an antidote?
There is, and I think the antidote is to supplement it with the in-person where we can, which is why I think everybody wants hybrid work. People don't want to be in the office all week. They just don't. I mean, you see the surveys, I see the surveys, and people are like, hell no.
Yep.
But I think part of that is because if they could use the time productively, and if connections were better and relationships with their bosses were better, and there was less toxic workplaces, people wouldn't feel that way. So part of it is incumbent on us to fix a lot of that stuff and to figure out where technology can facilitate better communication. And if it can't, then in-person can be supplemented. And if we can use hybrid, then yeah, I think that's why hybrid, I think, could be a really wonderful solution, because you're right. There's no substitute for the in-person, but in-person doesn't work if people aren't valued and respected.
Yeah.
And, forcing people to come into the office, like somehow being there, like proximity is going to force people to respect each other, then we've missed the boat. We've got to fix culture first. It's like, I don't need to see your face. I don't like you. That cubicle wall's not high enough. So and that's not going to change. And I think for a lot of people I know in Silicon Valley anyway, they're tired. They're tired of the hustle culture. They're tired of the toxicity. They're tired. Women don't want to have to constantly choose between their kids and their career. And there's reasons why they don't want to go in the office. Let them honor that. And maybe, again, the answer you just said is let's supplement where we can in person, but make the in-person really count. Make it count. So I don't think people are opposed to it, but you and I both know that when a meeting gets called and it's in person and it could have been an email, everybody loses it. So
the tolerance for that is just vanished.
It's gone. It's like, it's gone. It's like my lunch. I am hungry. It's gone. And so I think if we're going to do that and we're going to supplement it with in person, let's make it count. So I think it's asking people to be more accountable and be smarter about culture.
And more intentional as well.
Yeah. More intentional. Yes, exactly. So good things, I think, if we do it right.
If we do, I think we have a lot of responsibility moving forward with the rate of change.
I think we do. And I'm hoping some good things come out of it. And I'm actually thankful and impressed as hell with younger generations that are making it an issue, and they're right. And they're not taking it anymore. And and I'm hearing from a lot of leaders that are like, Gen Zers are just not putting up with that. And I'm like, yeah, nobody wants to put up with it. They're just incredibly vocal about it, and they're telling it to your face. The rest of us are just making voodoo dolls of you behind your back. We tried to tell you, you're not listening. And we tried to tell you. But I think Gen Z has come along, and I think so much so that they're walking and leaving. So I'm optimistic. And yeah, comedy and humor, comedy lessons about bravery. And I think humor as in non-performance, which you said so well, Sam, and really just being in connection with each other, being imperfect and celebrating that and making it okay for people to be themselves and to try things and fail and experiment. That could be a game changer. Yeah.
Hmm. I
Mhm.
agree. I think
Yeah.
the game has changed, and so
Yeah.
game changers are necessary.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I will happily go anywhere like to Scotland or Canada because they're nice. So, anytime in-person meetings, my clients are like, go there. I'm like, I'm on it. I'm on it. Let's do this.
It helps that people are nice.
Yeah, exactly. I live in Silicon Valley where everybody, they're nice, they're burnt out. I think hustle culture sort of, as an extension of tech has created a lot of burnout. And I
Yeah.
think what we're seeing is incredible amounts of burnout. Yeah.
And people want sustainability now.
Yeah. They want sustainability in our culture. I don't think we designed culture for sustainability. We designed it to maximize KPIs and ROIs and YOYs and oh my God. We designed it for dashboards. We've never designed culture to work for people. And I think that day has come. So yeah. And in my day, we didn't even talk about it. I know I sound like we're really super old. I'm not. I'm a Gen Xer, but when I was in tech and leading large teams, I mean, if you try to have this conversation, Sam, like the C-suite would laugh at it. We weren't talking about these things. Some of us were trying, but it would just, I don't think there was the recognition that shit's got to change. And here we are. So now we're talking about it because enough people, I think, have been burned out. And I think COVID accelerated that.
It did, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's an excellent place to end on.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you, Kathy, very,
Oh,
very
my
much.
pleasure. Thank you.